Good evening, I'm Norman Robinson, and welcome to Affordable Housing Matters. On this month's show, we'll take a look at the houses showcased in this year's Parade of Homes. We will also talk with the Senior Vice President of Hub International Gulf South to discuss insurance information that may help you this upcoming hurricane season. Substantial information coming your way when we return.
Louisiana needs a hero.
Someone to look after it, preserve it.
We have to do something now.
If everybody took care of their spot, we wouldn't have this conversation.
We all have to do our part.
The power is yours. All you have to do is pick it up.
Care about it. Protect it. Save it.
Be an everyday hero.
Keep Louisiana beautiful.
With over 30 years of experience with Hub International Gulf South, Mr. Rowland Stalter is here to educate us all on insurance policies as we move into the start of hurricane season. Mr. Stalter, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you.
You know, I was just thinking this is the season where I become most nervous. I don't think I'm alone in that emotion. So with that being said, we never assume the obvious about anything. So when is hurricane season?
Well, in the insurance industry, hurricane season starts on June 1st and runs through November. The peak of the season is between August and October.
And when you think about hurricane seasons, what I think about automatically is flooding. So the question that always comes to mind for me is, where are those dastardly flood zones?
Well, if you, we'll show you just sometime during the show websites where you can actually put in your address and it'll tell you the flood zone that you're in, your home is in, and it'll show you a flood map of where your neighbors are in the flood zone as well. It's critical information to have if you're a homeowner in this area.
There's no question about that, and those flood zones are changing, are they not?
They've changed in New Orleans, and the FEMA in the insurance industry is adjusting their rates, and I think a lot of New Orleans are most probably receiving letters from their flood insurance providers informing them of the changes, and the changes could be positive or they could be negative.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of surprises in those letters.
Yes, and you need to respond to the letters and read them. This year is most probably the first year that you're getting a letter specifically about any changes in your flood zones. So you'll get a letter if you're going to have a better zone or a worse, or you're moving into a worse zone.
And you say you need to respond to those letters?
You do need to respond to those letters. To renew your policy, if you were not in a flood zone, and now you are, you may need to get a flood elevation done on your home. So it's called, and it costs between $200 and $400 to have someone come out and do a flood determination or get a flood survey of your home.
So those flood surveys are very important.
Yes. Now, if you're not in a critical flood zone, you don't need to have a flood determination done or a flood evaluation done.
Yeah, I see those sometimes when you're buying a home. It's on the MLS. Sometimes it says the home is not flood certified. There's no flood elevation. So is that something that I as a potential buyer should be concerned about?
Certainly. Yeah. Before you buy a home, I tell my clients and friends that before you buy a home, you got to know what flood zone it's in. The more hazardous zones where you need to get an elevation certificate are the A and V zones. Mm-hmm. The zones that you don't, if you're looking at a flood map, are the X, B, and C zones. So if you're in an A zone and you're thinking of buying a home, the next step you have to do is find out if the home was built at the proper elevation to qualify for FEMA's flood program.
So that interactive flood map that we have on the screen right now is very important, and this is going to tell you what you need to do if you happen to occupy in a home or an apartment in one of those particular areas.
Correct.
All right. So the next question is, how can viewers prepare for storm season? Is hurricane insurance available during storm season?
Yes. To prepare, you need to make sure that you've got proper coverage. Mm-hmm. There are two policies you need to have to protect yourself from the occurrences of a storm. One is a homeowner's policy, and the second is what we've been talking about, a flood insurance policy. The reason why a flood policy is needed is because a homeowner's policy covers certain perils like wind and hail, but most homeowners policies do not cover flood insurance. So you need to have two policies to make sure you're covered for an occurrence of a hurricane.
You know, a lot of us were shocked during Hurricane Katrina to discover that, because we thought we were covered. And the homeowners policy people said, no, that's not our area of concern. You need to take that up with the national flood insurance people.
Right, and I think in the insurance industry, that's a given if you're in the business. If you've never dealt in insurance and ever bought a home, you may not know that. But the flood insurance program, I think, was created right around the time of Hurricane Betsy, or right after that in 1965, 66 or 67, and it was a federal program. And the reason why it was created as a federal program is the insurance industry was not offering that coverage.
But they were only offering
they were only offering wind coverage from a hurricane.
And the flood insurance now, is it stable, or is it still fluctuating in terms of the price going up?
The FEMA program there's a push for the premiums to go up, even if you've gone into a better zone.
Really,
your premiums might go up. There's a schedule. There's a plan to continue. In certain zones, in certain areas, it can continue to raise the rates until the program, the premiums equal the losses.
Is that because of the losses they sustained during Katrina, Rita, and most recently Hurricane Sandy?
Well, it's due to all of those, and it's a national problem, not a regional problem. So FEMA was created by Congress, and I think Congress is trying to balance, hopefully balance the budget of the federal government. And part of this is trying to get out of supporting the FEMA program. It should be self-supporting.
Now, the next question is, what coverages are offered on a homeowner's policy?
Well, it's a good question. So a homeowner's policy obviously would cover the home. It also will includes secondary structures like an unattached garage, fences, and it also includes your contents inside of the home. Now remember, it doesn't cover these issues for flood. It would be windstorm, fire, hail, whatever. And I think a lot of people don't realize that your personal liability insurance is covered under a homeowner's policy. And I give you an example of what something could happen. On a bright sunny Saturday, you could decide to cut the grass at your home, and your neighbor may walk over to approach you to ask you a question, and right at that second, the lawnmower spits out a rock and hits them in the face. Well, if your neighbor feels like you're responsible for that, your homeowner's insurance policy would cover the defense of that, and it would pay up to $5,000 for the medical bills of
so
an
that's
occurrence.
The liability.
That's the liability end of it. And traditionally, in each insurance policy can be different, but on average, usually when you buy a homeowner's policy, it provides about $300,000 of personal liability coverage. And a lot of people ask when they have a homeowner's policy and they look at it, well, how did the insurance company come up with these limits of coverage that I have? you know, the building and the contents and whatever. And what the insurance industry has done is created a package policy, and it's based on a percentage of the building coverage. So I did a little example, and I can show it. I don't know which way to
Please
show it.
do.
Okay, so I don't know if you picked this up.
They'll pick it up.
Okay, so this is an example of a $200,000 homeowners policy where the building is insured for $200,000. The contents, usually you get 50% of the building limit in contents, and loss of use coverage would be 20%. In this situation, would be $40,000. And other structures, which we talked about the unattached garage or garden house or whatever, you would get 10% coverage. And then the liability traditionally is about $300,000, and you get medical payments coverage for not your family, but other people that get hurt on your premises of $5,000.
Let's talk about the other structure, because I think a lot of people were kind of ripped off, for lack of a better word, when they were trying to recoup their losses after Hurricane Katrina, because I personally was told by my insurance company that my unattached garage and cabana was not covered under homeowner.
Well, and it depends on the policy. This is on average, you know, and remember this is homeowners coverage, so which would be windstorm. So if the roof blew off of your garage, that would be covered in this policy. If your garage flooded, that would be a flood insurance issue, and traditionally flood insurance is underwritten by building. So if you had an outbuilding, a separate structure, you would have to buy a separate policy for that structure.
Okay, so those are mitigating circumstances.
Right.
All right.
So if you're planning to build a home and you want your garage to be included in your flood policy, have it attached to the house.
So this is information that people should really know.
Yes.
So you'll have to have a separate clause on your policy, on your homeowner's policy, if you plan to cover your garage or something, if you got a cabana or something like that.
No, well, let's go back. On a homeowner's policy, it would be covered as an extra structure. But when it comes to flood insurance, flood insurance, you'd have to buy a separate policy per structure.
A separate policy
per structure on your property.
Okay.
So if you want to avoid having to buy two flood policies, connect your garage to your house.
Okay, as simple as that, right?
Yes, sir.
Just make sure that the garage is connected to the house. Now, how are homeowners' insurance rates established for coverage?
Well, in this region, there's a number of factors: credit, but the main factors that drive our rates in this market is how close you are to the coast for wind and hail and hurricane exposure. And the other is what is your home built of? If it's a frame building, it'll carry a higher rate than a cinder block or steel structure. I don't know many steel buildings, but I mean, those are the big factors.
So what if it's just all brick and mortar? So
you would carry a lower rate if it was a cinder block structure versus a frame structure.
Now, what about a raised house as opposed to a slab house?
On homeowners policies, I don't know if there's much factoring that. In flood, obviously, flood insurance, there'd be a substantial difference because there is a rating factor applied to the base rates of a flood policy based on the elevation of your structure.
Now, the reason I ask that question is because I have a raised house. Before Katrina, I had a slab house. After I got the raised house, the insurance company wanted to know whether it was enclosed or not. So what was that about?
So if you're in a raised home and you don't occupy the basement or it's not occupiable, then the elevation of the building is going to be determined by the lowest occupied floor or ability to be occupied floor.
So it's almost like you have to have an insurance coverage degree to understand this stuff.
Well, that's why, not to take a pitch for your insurance, but insurance agents. But I think there's a reason why there's insurance agents, and you don't buy insurance just online. If you're a well-read person and you want to go online and read all about insurance, you can do it. If you want to cut through the chase, you can call an insurance agent. In this situation, it would be somebody that specializes in personal lines insurance.
Mm-hmm. So it's a good idea to have a good relationship with an agent who really knows what he or she is doing.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Rowland Stalter, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're quite welcome.
All right, thanks.
Coming up next, the annual Parade of Homes is introducing 25 new homes across the greater New Orleans area. We'll have more insight on the type of homes when we come back. The annual Parade of Homes is the region's best way to see the latest in building techniques and industry trends. Attendees will see newly built, energy-efficient homes that are being built in our very own area. With me now to go into further detail about these homes is the CEO of Home Builders Association, Mr. John Luther. John, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I call you John because we've done these things
a lot of years,
so
yeah.
often, so I feel like I know you personally.
Terrific seeing you again. Absolutely.
It's always nice seeing you. Walk me through this parade of homes. Who's sponsoring it?
Sure.
And what's significant about it?
Sure. Thank you. This is, gosh, we're into our 60th some odd year of doing the parade now. And the Home Builders Association of Greater New Orleans and one of our very good members, Shopper's Choice, is helping with a lot of the sponsorship. Norman, we probably have more houses in the parade this year than we've had in my 12 years being at the Home Builders Association.
Really?
So we're pretty excited about that. 25 plus homes, and we're spread out pretty nicely, not only geographically, but price point wise, square footage wise. We have some very large houses that one might look at it and call it a mansion, and we have plenty of others that are far more modest in square footage, but at the same time very well upgraded, very well located, good urban locations, more suburban. I mean, it's really cool to have the variety this year.
So you decided to have a diversity of houses, if I can use that word,
Sure,
to describe some of the architecture.
Absolutely.
What led to that?
I think just listening to our client and our customer out there. Again, we talk a lot about all these different notions of what's affordable and what isn't, and I think the word affordability is in our lexicon all over the nation right now. But that means a lot of things to a lot of different people. You have, deep low-income affordability issues that we try to address. We have a lot of workforce affordability issues,
right.
And then even some folks who do quite well still think maybe they have an affordability issue. It's all relative.
Yeah, it is.
So we're trying to address that as, we've been around the Home Builders Association for 76 years now here in the community. We've got 1,000 member firms. So we really are trying to be cognizant of what the needs are out in that community and try to meet them. And the parade's a good vehicle for that.
And you talked about the geographical regions that you're now in. 25 homes in all over the greater New Orleans area.
Right. We represent 7 parishes, so we like to be around the area, certainly.
So do the price ranges have anything to do with the geography of the area?
A bit, actually. In fact, what we're real happy about is we have got in this year's parade what we'll call a couple of new neighborhoods.
Okay, talk about that.
Yeah, and for example, in Gentilly, we have a builder that has, for the last several years now, been kind of really working and ingratiating himself into that community, who's now building what we will call subdivision neighborhood homes.
In Gentilly?
Yes, sir. And they're not these large 6,000 square foot homes. These are more 3,000, 3,200 square feet, or even maybe a little bit smaller than that. They're price pointed, I think, appropriately for the area. But again, even though maybe they're more modest in square feet, they're just terrifically appointed. They've got really good materials and products, and they're very appealing. We have another in Old Araby, so St. Bernard Parish. And you know, an entire block, if you will, in Old Araby is being kind of redeveloped. Similar type of housing price point, similar type of architecture. Very much the original New Orleans type architecture. And I know these houses are going to be very appealing. They already are to our customer base out there. Yeah.
What are we talking about in terms of price range?
You know, we're still looking probably in the low 300,000s for some of these houses. You know, now these same builders build lower than that in the sense of, you know, they'll meet a price point, you know, under 300 if need be, depending on all the other factors. So that's encouraging. But at the same time, of course, we have homes that are ranging well into $1 million plus in the parade as well. And I think what this gives everyone a good opportunity to do is meet these builders, meet these material suppliers, many of whom are at the homes during the, and even if you aren't getting ready to build a new home, maybe you're ready to renovate, or maybe you're just still dreaming, you know, but these are the experts in the field, and it's really terrific to be able to just go out there, and they're very gracious with their time. It makes sense for them to be gracious with their time, and so we feel it's a real good experience for people to get out there and learn what the market's looking like.
So this is an opportunity for people to go out and meet a
Absolutely.
builder. Maybe they find somebody they like, or maybe
Absolutely.
they find somebody who maybe they don't want to build a house, but maybe they want to renovate a house.
Precisely, and build up a relationship. That's another thing we've tried to do over the years. For the first many years of the parade, and you know, before the advent of real technology, we would advertise this thing, and we'd tell everybody, come on out these 2 weekends. Well, in the last probably 5 years, we've tried to make it more virtual, whereby if you're plugged into what we're doing at the Home Builders Association electronically, we're introducing you to these builders and these vendors almost year-round now, you know, with YouTube videos and all these other different things, so that when you do finally go out there to that parade on those couple of weekends, you might already have a relationship with these folks, which is good, because you may not want the house that's in the parade that they built,
Right.
but you might want them to build something similar somewhere else. And that, I think, makes a lot of sense for a lot of people.
Let's talk about the trends now. When you talk about renovation and new architecture, what's trending now in terms of the interior of homes?
Well, ironically, a lot of the homes, very nice the way they're done, are using a lot of the reclaimed materials. I was in a home this morning that literally had a wall going up the stairs, and it was all wood that was reclaimed from the Port of New Orleans.
Wow.
And then they had a mantle that was reclaimed wood. So what I think is cool about that is, while we're of course hearkening back to the products from years ago, the way they're being integrated into these new progressive homes is really cool. They don't look like they're just sticking out like a sore thumb. They fit, you know, and then you might have this reclaimed piece of wood next to this amazing new oven range that's very, very progressive, you know. And so, but it works. So we're seeing that a lot. Something else that jumped out at me, at least this year, is this seamless, almost seamless opportunity for indoor and outdoor living.
Oh,
you know,
really?
back when I was a kid, we had this big clanky sliding glass door, and you know, you
Yeah.
pull on that
I
thing.
remember those
and
doors,
then
yeah.
you know you're outside.
Yeah, exactly.
Nowadays, some of these homes, I mean, you know, the way they are designed, you're inside and doing whatever in your kitchen or your open space, you know, and all of a sudden you're outside. You know, and you're living outside as much as you are inside, climate, withstanding. And that struck me, how they're making this seamless indoor-outdoor living. Yeah.
So you're bringing nature to the interior.
Right, a lot of light, a lot of
Yeah.
natural sunlight. Yeah, exactly. You're using your landscaping very nicely. And if it isn't kind of like we'll see these outdoor kitchens and these outdoor grills, very sophisticated. If it isn't that, I'm seeing in some of the houses having these almost little contained mini courtyards. Again, harkens back to New Orleans 200 years ago, you know, and it's kind of cool because you might walk on the street and look at that house, and what you don't see is there's this little contained courtyard interior. That's pretty cool to me as well. Yeah.
I noticed that a lot of these houses too are big on porches, both
That's
both
it.
downstairs and
Yes,
upstairs.
Exactly, the wraparound porches. That's excellent point, because a lot of them have that in this year's parade. Yeah.
So you're going back and blending the old time architecture into these new structures.
Probably more so than I've seen in many years of our parade. So, and again, I hope that's the customer telling us, hey, that's what we want to see. That's what we like.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So when can we see this? When can we see these?
We kick off the 3rd, Saturday the 3rd, and Sunday, and then the following weekend as well, 10th and 11th, from 1 p.m. till usually 5, but the builders stay longer, certainly if you're in the house and you want to chat and ask questions. Yeah.
So you have a total of 25 homes to see.
Right, correct.
In how many different areas?
We're basically in about 4 different parishes, Orleans, of course, Jefferson, including City of Kenner, and then Plaquemines and St. Bernard. Yeah.
Okay. Now, these homes, I understand, are energy efficient homes?
A lot of them, yeah. Most of them. The techniques and the products nowadays have become really sophisticated. And if you remember years ago after Katrina, one of the big things we were trying to accomplish in the city of New Orleans was this so-called energy policy. And from our perspective, we want energy efficiency for everybody, but some of these techniques and products are extremely expensive to employ into the house. It was always our thing that everybody has to be able to afford the energy efficiency. And so that's what we're always still trying to strive for as well. You know, you can have $1 million home, and of course you have the resources to make it energy efficient. But let's really challenge ourselves and make a $250,000 or $300,000 home energy efficient. And then you'll really see some results, you know. And so we're always striving for that. And the other new and big thing, of course, the last few years are these kind of smart homes with your iPad and your laptop, and you can control your temperature and your security and all those sorts of things. So we're seeing a lot of that as well. Yeah.
All right, John Litter, CEO of the Home Builders Association. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Always a pleasure, Norman.
You're quite welcome. Pleasure here as well. Yeah. We'll be back to wrap up Affordable Housing Matters right after this break. Don't go far.
I love taking care of my mom. It wasn't easy at first. She learned how to better communicate her needs.
And you learned how to not ignore yours.
I discovered how to make healthier meals.
And I discovered how much I enjoyed them.
Becoming a caregiver is a learning experience for everyone. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
We would like to thank our guests for joining us here on Affordable Housing Matters. Please join us again next month as we will focus heavily on hurricane preparedness and what you need to do to be ready for an impending storm. Also remember, if you would like to rewatch this and other episodes of Affordable Housing Matters, go to WLAE.com and click on the programming link. There you can watch this episode and all past episodes of Affordable Housing Matters. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Norman Robinson. Have a good night.